What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV, TGIF edition, day 3 of the Blood Red. Dun, dun, dun. Just kidding. Well, not really, because that actually is what's going on. But it's been quite the learning experience. Very exciting times. If you haven't already, make sure you join the newsletter list at coinmastery.com/invest. And join the revolution. All right, as you guys may not can tell, I'm a little cloudy today. I pulled my first crypto all-nighter in a very, very long time. I used to do this pretty often. I've done it many times in my entrepreneurial career, but I'm just so fired up right now about the markets, about learning that, one thing just led to another. Now, today, we're going to talk about what's going on with our good friend Bitcoin. We're going to talk a little bit about some short-term stuff and some long-term stuff. So this isn't just for traders. This is for people that are like, should I hold? Should I not hold? And I'm just investing. Hey, look, I'm just here for the popcorn, whatever. You'll get something out of this because I really want to show you the thought process that I've been going through. That's really the best I can do because, as always, I'm not a professional advisor. None of this is professional advice. I also want to talk a little bit about what's going on with a couple macro things and really like where we stand, not only from crypto, but also for all of us, right? Like individually speaking. And I know that on Fridays, I tend to kind of get into this sort of thing, but I do think it's really helpful to at least bring this up in a world that is just like all consuming in many ways. And I wanted to start with a quick story that I think has a good analogy that, hopefully will come through at the end. For anybody who's listening on the podcast, I am showing a picture of Kauai, Hawaii, and it is cloudy, it is rainy, it is overlooking some pretty big waves. It's on the north shore of Kauai. And Hawaii is one of my favorite places in the whole world. If you've never been, I hope that one day you can go. It is a magical, magical place. And as you look at this picture, this probably isn't exactly what you'd think of when you think of Hawaii, right? You'd look at this and be like, okay, that looks okay, but man, I'm not going to travel around all the way around the world, fly for hours and hours to see this. Because before all of this, we sit in our houses, we sit in our rooms, we talk to the people we're going to go with, or maybe you're going by yourself or whatever, but you're thinking about, oh man, I can't wait until everything's dialed and perfect. I can't wait until I get that amazing Hawaii experience, right? And so if you look at this next picture, which actually I took a couple weeks ago when I was there, this is the kind of picture that we dream of, right? So if you're listening to the podcast, it's a sunset, beautiful clouds, we're in lava, blah, blah, blah. Shot on an iPhone too. Crazy, right? This is what people get excited about. These beautiful moments, right? The blue, green ocean, the sunset, the sunshine, everything else. And the clouds are not. The clouds is like, oh, I hope we get good weather. And you may check the weather a million times and be like, oh, I just hope that the sun comes out. I hope the sun comes out. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. For a very, very long time, that was my mentality. Didn't matter what I was doing, where I was going. I always I kind of had this, not only a hope, but it was, it led to disappointment if it wasn't always sunny. And especially when you go to a place like Hawaii, which is once in a lifetime, one of the most special places in the world, I was missing out on a lot that was going on because I was so focused on the environment. I was like, well, it's not really sunny, so I can't really do all the stuff that I really want to do. I can't make the memories. I can't necessarily take the pictures I want. And looking back, there's so many opportunities to do cool stuff that I missed because I was focused. I was too closed-minded in what I was doing. I was too focused on one thing or another. The reason I bring this up is because yesterday, over the past week or so, I've been getting emails, tweets, comments, whatever, people saying like, dude, what happened? I thought you were a long-term holder. I thought you were all about blockchain. I thought you're all about the tech. And now you're doing trading, why are you doing that? And the reason why is when I first got into crypto, like many of you, I had this idea, like, I'm just going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, a bunch of Ethereum, maybe some Litecoin, and I'm going to sit on it and I'm going to enjoy the ride. And then I slowly got into the tech and I realized how cool it was. And last summer I started the idea of trading. I met some really smart, amazing people who helped me out a lot. They showed me what was possible with trading, and I slowly got into it, but I never really considered myself a trader. I never really thought that I should learn that discipline. And so when you look at the chart here, between, I've been in for a couple of years, but let's call it summer of 2016, especially last year, 2017, every day was sunny for the most part. I mean, you had some downswings, but it was almost kind of exciting because you knew it was coming back up, and no matter what, it was always going to bounce back. And so every day it was like checking the weather report and it was always being sunny. And I didn't need to learn anything else because everything was always perfect. It was always taken care of. It was always going up. Now, that's not the case. The market has obviously changed. It is going down. It's bounced. It's volatile. There's a million things going on. There's a million variables going on. And I'm faced with a choice, like everyone else is faced with a choice, where every day you can decide, well, do I want to sit back and wait for the next big swing? And it's going to come. I mean, this is going to go up at some point. The problem is we just don't know when. So you can sit there and wait and look at your weather report and be like, well, it's cloudy, it's cloudy, it's cloudy, it's cloudy. I can't do anything today. Or you could say, well, it's cloudy, but you know what? I can still go surfing when it's cloudy. I can still go scuba diving when it's cloudy. It might not be as exciting as if it was sunny, but I can still go do it. And that is really the light bulb that I've had in the past month or so, is that there is some sort of cognitive bias inside me that has resisted doing this stuff for whatever reason. And I'm realizing now that this is an opportunity to learn. This is an opportunity to potentially make a lot of money, but just to become a more well-rounded investor and trader and to take advantage of what this whole thing has given us. Yes, the blockchain, yes, the technology, yes, the whole revolution. That is still the big piece of all this. But there's also the big piece of being in a market and learning how to trade. And it's easy to forget about that when things are going down because it's harder and you don't have that backdrop that it's always going to go back up and that things are going to be great again. And that's really what's driving this. It has nothing to do with like my long-term plans. And so I'm bringing this up because I would encourage everybody. And I put a tweet about this actually about Mark Andreessen and his thing about strong opinions weakly held. I think you should always have conviction, and you should always have your core strategy and what you want to do. But you also need to be open to adapting to the environment that you are presented with. We do not have a perma bull market right now. Nothing we can do about that, so to speak. And so you might as well make hay while the sun is shining, no pun intended. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm learning this stuff. That's why I'm talking about it. And I would encourage everybody out there to at least entertain the possibility that you don't have to be a trader. You don't have to do any of this because many of you probably don't have time, don't have the interest to do this sort of thing. But at least entertain the idea that your current belief system can be changed. And if it is changed, it may open you up to a whole new world of things that you didn't even realize you were missing. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. But I think it is just so important how being flexible, being malleable in your thought process is what makes you a successful investor and a successful trader over the long term, because you don't fear the down cycles. I can't tell you how liberating it is not to be worried about things. This goes down to 3,000. A year ago, I would have been like, oh my God, that sucks. Like what? Now it doesn't matter because I'm understanding how to short, how to take advantage of all these sort of things, how to read the charts. And it's just a very liberating experience. So anyway, let's get back to it. Taking a look on the long-term scale, long-term, I should say. There's a few things to note. Now, this is really the big picture for anybody listening. We're on the one-day Bitfinex Bitcoin chart, and I drew a trend line. I'm using the wicks on these daily trend lines for anybody who's wants to get super psycho about it. Yes, you could do the candles. I did the wicks, so it goes. And I will also point out that you guys, if you do not already, should be go on Twitter and follow Luke Martin at Venture Coinist. He is awesome at these kind of long-term trend progressions. His big thing is not only this trend line, but there's also a channel that can be drawn. Let's see here. We did it like that, so to speak. You can see how there's a channel that's being drawn. He really opened my eyes to that a long time ago, but go check him out, right? Credit where credit's due. So this trend line is huge because you can see that the current price action of Bitcoin did not pass this trend line. This yellow line is also a support level, previous resistance, which is where last night's wick missed. Incidentally, I missed this buy by $1. I almost lost my mind, but I did, so it goes. I stuck to my plan. I didn't chase the candle, but oh my God. So it's stuck to this resistance level right around 8,300, whether or not it continues down. But it's also interesting that this is really where it meets the trend line as well. So there's a whole lot going on from a support standpoint right here, which is a good sign, right? And you'll see the volume. We also saw the biggest BitMEX volume in history, 660,000 Bitcoins worth of volume happening on BitMEX last 24 hours. Pretty crazy. Hopefully that's because of my referral link. So I'm just kidding. But so that's where that stands. Similarly, on the downside, there's a trend line up here. This did not break. This has pushed it down, which opens up this whole triangle area as a potential next area to watch. So what we really need on the daily is we need it to open up and show some sign of coming back, or at least consolidating, meaning we get like a doji or something right around here, or an inverted hammer, to get anything in this blue triangle. Because if we go below this, oh man, that's gonna be something else. Now, in terms of entry, another video, a couple video guys I've been watching, you guys should go check out, are the chart guys on YouTube. Look, and none of this, by the way, none of this is like sponsored, or these guys don't even know I'm talking about it, but you should go check them out. Let them know I sent you, all that. If you look at the RSI, which is the relative strength index, it shows how overbought or oversold this is. Now, the daily is not quite oversold yet, and you want it to be below this purple box for anybody who, in layman's terms, the purple box, and then as it starts to come back up, that tends to be one indicator you can use to show buying activity. So on the daily, it doesn't actually look that good. It looks like we may still have a little bit of down pressure. The good news, however, is when you go onto the 4 hour, you can see how we are overbought, or oversold, I should say. Right? So we're oversold. We're underneath this purple bar, meaning that there's a lot of potential that we could go back up. And the more you go in, especially right around the bottom, you can see that this was an oversold area. So everything is actually looking good from an RSI standpoint, except for the daily, which is why we talked about this the other day. The more you zoom out, the more confirmation you get. So if this daily was way down here, I think across the board, everyone would say, like, I think that was the bottom. But the problem is this daily is not all the way down there. So there's still some pent up selling desire that needs to get worked out. And the problem is just nobody knows how can this support level sustain that. If not, and it breaks through and we go through these trend lines, well then, whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Other thing that the chart guys I saw doing, which I thought was really interesting, and it's funny. like write down every single thing. That's what you do is like they teach you something, you press pause, you write down what you just learned, how can you apply it? And they talk about using this exponential moving average. Exponential moving average versus moving average, meaning exponential, it's more applicable to recent price action, right? So it weights the latest stuff so it can move more quickly. But if you notice, as the bear trend, this is on the 1 hour, as this bear kind of dump has happened, it's bounced off of this EMA pretty quick. This is 26 moving average pretty quick, and it continues to do so. And this is just another indicator to show you when things are starting to switch and show a little bit more of a bullish sentiment. All right. Now this is on BitMEX. The charts are relatively similar to Bitfinex. But the point being, you get the big picture on this first one. You can zoom in. You can start to look at some small ones. There's 1,000 different indicators you can look at. These are just a few that I've been looking at. Other ones, every time we had one of these big dumps, you saw this consolidation. And the key was when it dumped, could it break through the previous resistance or support, I should say. Just happened over and over and over again until this final one when we actually did break through, and now we're having a hard time. And we're going to continue to see whether or not the next, call it 8 hours, if that can pop up, break through this or not. If it can't, we may be in another weekend, maybe. Anyway, so cool stuff. I mean, I don't know. This is just the kind of thing that I'm trying to learn it because it will help me. It's also just, if you're just waiting around for all of your coins to go up, you're just missing so much. Not just financially. It's just such an opportunity to have markets like this, at least in my opinion. And that's why I do it. So let's refresh CoinMarketCap down to 360 billion. Wow, that really tanked. This morning there was a PAC coin or PAS coin or whatever, number 3. It looks like they figured that out, but that was a funny fluke. And it's a good thing that wasn't getting indexed as like a top 10 index fund or whatever, because that would have really messed it up. But you can see that when you switch over to BTC, the story is really similar. And at the very least, I think one thing that can always provide some semblance of solace is, right, like one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. USD prices change, but it's still one Bitcoin. So if you trade 4 Bitcoins, you're still in the same ecosystem, which is, I don't know, that gives me a little bit of a, I'm not stressing nearly as much as someone I think who would be concerned about USD, which brings up an interesting point that I tweeted about in January. We'll see if it comes true. But I said how as April 15th approaches, which is tax day in America, you're going to start to see more and more people that need to liquidate crypto to pay their taxes. And that's a big deal because you're starting to see people. I mean, I'm seeing people email me on Twitter. I mean, I'm starting to see it where they're like, man, how can I liquidate now? Like the price is so low compared to where it was. I wanted it to come back up before I liquidated it. But that's how the markets work. Right? It makes you sell when at the worst possible moment for whatever reason. It's just like how it works out. And so you're going to see that with people who are in that position. The market is not here to help people make money. The market is here to take money from you. That's what you got to remember. And so there's all these different factors, all these different micro factors that are playing into this, which is why if this did dip down and people were waiting for it to liquidate to pay their taxes, it could compound with the issue. So it's just something that I've noticed. Maybe some of you also have noticed, but I'm really not. Until we figure out what's going on with the support level, I'm not too concerned about any of the altcoins. I'm just kind of whatever. It is what it is. Let them do their thing. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the bigger picture. As many of you guys like to chat about, Congress in the United States is going to do an ICO hearing next week. So we're seeing this across the board where Yesterday we talked about how they might create some sort of subcommittee that self-regulates the crypto space. They're also going to be talking specifically about ICOs. Now, this comes after a bunch of subpoenas that were issued both publicly and privately. I think it was 80 total, give or take, to pretty much all the big ICOs received these, as far as I can tell. And they're going to look and just talk about what do they do with this new information. So for anybody who doesn't know what happens, like if you did get subpoenaed, what would happen is they would come and they would say, we need to talk to you. We need to hear about everything you've done. And more importantly, we need to see all the records of everything you've done. You know, all your documents, all your transaction history, everything, all your banking. And this committee is going to discuss not only some of the information that they're getting, but like what do they do about it? So this is going to be a big deal. Keep your eye on this. This could impact the market, both positive or negative, because positive, it could come out and say, okay, we actually just use all this information and now we have a better picture of what's going on. Here are the rules, go forth and conquer. That would be best case scenario. Worst case scenario would be like, we collected all this information. Here's a list of everybody that broke the rules. Here are all the ICOs that are, negligent or whatever, and these people are going to jail and all this money is being done. That'd be worst case scenario. So either way, it's going to have an impact on the market, which is why you should care about something like this. On a micro level, again, this is not advice or anything. If you own tokens, ICO tokens that are part of an ICO that is not professional, that is not being run by people that know what they're doing or are making an effort to know what they're doing. One, that's probably not a very good investment strategy. Two, you can you can have some semblance of a control over your future here. Those ICOs are probably not going to fare very well through this whole process, no matter what happens. So take that for what it's worth. But this is going to be a big deal because this could impact. Remember, Ethereum was an ICO. EOS is an ICO. I mean, these are big top companies or coins in the space. That could be a huge deal. Last piece, the CFTC ex-chairman was talking about how the bubble, quote unquote, probably won't bust anytime soon because the institutional money is not in here yet. And I thought this was super interesting because he's looking at this and he's looking at crypto and he's saying, listen, you had some ups and you had some downs. That's just natural. You look at all the stock market bubble charts. I mean, it's textbook what's going on. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going all the way to the bottom with the nature of the timing and the speed. This could just be like a flattening and then we go into the next run. And that's personally what I think is going to happen is that a lot of news is going to happen at some point this year and we're just going to, this Bitcoin is not going to be a full retrace the way everyone thinks it is. I think it's actually going to be like one bump in just some mega Elliott wave. And then that's going to be the big one. So like that, when things are really big and all these banks and institutional funds and people have like big money in it and Circle's working and all these companies have, people can just go buy crypto just on their phone super easily because when all that's going, that's when you're going to see a real bubble. And that's what he's talking about. And it was interesting to hear him give that sort of perspective on something like this, as opposed to somebody who's seemingly like an evangelist for crypto or anyone in this space who kind of loves crypto. Is he's saying that, hey, the biggest could be yet to come because these guys they're just not putting any real money in. And the money that does go in is all OTC. I can't remember. I was trying to find the source for this, but I think 70% of money in Bitcoin right now is OTC, over the counter. Meaning, let's say I wanted to buy $50 million worth of Bitcoin. I couldn't go on to GDAX or Gemini and put in $30 million and press buy. Like, even though what's his face did that with Mt. Gox, right? Like, what you do is you go to a broker or you can go to some of these exchanges have brokerage services. You call them up and you say, I got $50 million in US dollars. I want you to pair me with somebody who's got whatever that would be, 10,000 Bitcoin or whatever it may be. And I want you to do the deal for me. And you would do it. There'd be a cut on top of it, but it would not affect the price of because it wouldn't go on the exchange. It wouldn't affect the supply and demand curve. So a huge amount of money is changing hands, but it's not actually driving price. And that's a big deal. So once it all goes onto the exchanges, that's when you're going to see a lot of crazy stuff. And that's why retail is so big. Everyone's like, oh, big money's coming in, big money's coming. It doesn't matter if big money comes in. What matters is if big money goes on the exchanges, right? That's such a huge, like, a important detail that often gets forgotten. And that's why retail investors, people like us, are so critical to the growth of this, or at least the price growth, because we're going to go on the exchanges. We're actually going to buy limit orders and, do the things we do. That drives the price action. We are not going out and doing OTC buys on any sort. I mean, some of you maybe are. I mean, that'd be sweet, but you see what I'm saying? So it's a big difference. So there's still a huge, huge, huge amount of growth and price action left. And in my opinion, no matter what happens with this price right now with Bitcoin, whether it goes down to 3,000, whether it goes down to 1,000, yes, that would suck. It would be terrible. I mean, I hear you. And a lot of people would buy up a lot of that Bitcoin and make a ton of money. But no matter what happens, this number, market cap, 360 billion, this number is going to go up at least 10x. And that is the key. That's what really, really, really matters. Okay? So no matter what goes down, just remember that this thing is going to go up over the next year, 2, 3, 4 years. All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I'm probably going to have to go take a nap or two, or maybe just sleep for the rest of the weekend. But I probably won't, because this is what I love to do. I just love to dominate and crush and share it. Cool, guys. Have a great weekend. Be smart. Be effective. Be open-minded. Rock and roll. Drink a beer. Crush it. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.